Greetings, hello, and welcome to day 4 of our International Women's Day series of sharing different voices from within the network around the theme of listening to nature. And I feel really, really grateful and blessed to be meeting with one of our grove tenders, Sharon, today, who's joining us from Canada. And Sharon is a co-grove tender of our Heal All Grove. And this grove are meeting from various countries, from the US and Canada to the UK. And I'm really excited to be hearing from Sharon. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
It'd be really lovely to hear talking about the theme of listening to nature, the ways that you drop into your connection with nature and the ways that you personally listen to the more than human world around you.
Yeah, I think I connect to nature in a number of different ways. One of the things I started doing as a child was learning the names of plants and trees and animals. That seemed to be really important to me. I even had little flashcards I used to go through as a kid, and it's important for me to remember the names of people as well. So that's something that and learning how to identify which plants and which trees I'm seeing and what their names are. So that's always been important for me. And for a lot of my adult life, I've been trying to learn about the medicinal qualities of plants. And somehow I always knew that they were here to help us. But nobody around me knew. And my parents had immigrated from the UK to Canada. And when I asked my mother, what is this plant for? She'd say, oh, that's a weed, dear. And she had no idea. And she was trying to be modern and Canadian. So all the remedies that her mother mailed to us in Canada, they went straight into the bin because she was trying to be something else. And so I've spent all that knowledge was kind of lost across the Atlantic. And I've spent a lot of my adult life trying to regain that knowledge. And so, but I always had this intuitive knowing. And so some of the plants I knew as a child, I'm only now learning about the medicinal qualities of it. So it's, taken, 55 years to answer the question. So those are two of the ways. And the other way is I have this intuitive sensitivity to everything. But when I'm around plants, sometimes they get my attention. I don't have particularly good vision. And at this age, I don't have very good hearing, but plants get my attention nevertheless. And so I'll be walking through the forest. And where I live, it's in a village, but you can get to the forest in 5 minutes in the car. And so I walk in the forest a lot these days. And I'll be walking through the forest and suddenly something will it's almost like being tapped on my shoulder. I'll suddenly become aware of a tree and I'll stop and I'll say, hello, who are you? And as if, a person has, waved at me or something. And during the first year of the COVID lockdown, I was walking in this one forest a lot of the time. And one day I was walking through there and there was these plants that were about 9 or 10 inches tall with bright purple heads, just like your top there, Ellie. And they really got my attention. They were like almost vibrating. And so I bent down to look at them and they look like the Heal All plant. And so it can be called All Heal, Heal All, Heart of the Earth. It's got many, many names. And I'd never seen it that tall. I'd seen it short in the lawns where I live, because there is a variety that lives in lawns and is short. And of course the grass gets cut, so it's short. But these were like 9 inches tall and their leaves come out sideways. So it was like it had its arms outstretched and its purple head was, was vibrating. And there was a whole community of them. And so it was like, I got my attention, it was like, oh, like they were trying to get my attention. That's what it felt like. And so I leaned over and I determined they were Heal All. And I thought, and they were like, pick us, pick us, pick us. But, I said to them, I'm going to go home and I'm going to find out what I can use you for. And then I can come back and tell you. And, because that was the rational part of my brain. So I went home and I looked it up. And the leaves can be picked and dried for a tea that helps with colds, flus. And it turned out that researchers were researching this plant for the treatment of COVID. It's a very big plant in Chinese medicine. So there were actually studies being done on this plant. So I went back the next day and I said, you know, I understand that your leaves could help with this. Is it okay if I harvest some? And they were like, yes, 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 yes. Because there's a bunch of them, right? And they were really like a community. And so I just took one leaf off every plant so as not to hurt it too much. And I thought, okay, right, I'll go home and dry those. And then I came around a corner, and then there was sunlight shining on that part of the forest. And because they like to dwell on the edges, they're edge dwellers. They like to live on the edge of paths. And this time the flowers were all lit up, and it was like, oh, it's okay, I'm good. I've already picked some leaves. And they're like, no, 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 the flowers. And it's like, I didn't research the flowers. And so I said, well, you know, what am I going to do with that? And then I heard flower essences, make flower essences. So I asked them, is it okay if I pick some flowers for flower essences? And they're like, finally, you've noticed, yes. So I went home and I did that. And so I started taking the essence, and it felt to me like part of what that gift of Hela is to help with healing ancestral traumas, ancestral wounds. And there's a lot of people are talking about how do we do that. So it seemed that I bumped into this. So my friend Jan McFarland, who co-tends the Hela Grow with me, she makes flower essences in a very particular way. I'm a bit more slapdash. So I told her about it, and she made quite a lot of it. And we were telling somebody else on Tree Sisters about this, and she said, well, I think we should start a grove. And that never occurred to me, but she got a real strong sense that we should start a grove. And so we did, and we called it the Hela Grove, because there was this plant that was really offering its help to help people with healing at this time in history. And she sort of did all the work to set it up and then moved on to something else. So Jan and I have been co-intending it as well. So my sensitivity to nature kind of just led into this grove.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Sharon. It's so beautiful to hear about that journey towards kind of reclamation of having a relationship with plants that, you know, we live among in the landscapes that we share with the more than human world. And then you speaking of, you know, healing like ancestral wounds and things, and how that intuitive sort of way of listening to the plants then leads to this like really like tangible way of having a connection and leaning into the gifts of the plants as medicine. And it's so beautiful to hear of that kind of journey towards how the grove was created and the sort of why the grove is named as it is. And it'd be lovely to hear from you, and in terms of like the way that you listen to nature, how that informs the way that you tend to the Hela Grove.
Well, the same forest is a big teacher for me, and because we go there about 5 times a week. So, and in all different weather, like when there's mosquitoes, we put like mosquito netting on, and right now we're bundling up with big coats and mitts and hats and scarves. And in hunting season, we wear orange vests just in case somebody thinks we're a deer, you know. So we stay faithful to that. And so there, in that forest, there's a grove of eastern hemlock trees. And for some reason, this is a long thing with me, eastern hemlocks, when I'm near them, they kind of have a blue-green needle. And there's something about them that I just feel really calm and grounded. It's just like, boom. And so I was working with a different group, and I got to the hemlocks, and I asked them if they would help me figure out how to help hold space for that group. And so all I got was a sense of downward motion into the forest floor. And it was like, okay, I'm down there, I'm grounded. And I just kept getting that sense. And I had to think about it a little bit. I came back the next day, and it was like, oh, they're showing me the roots. And I closed my eyes and I saw these little root tips, you know, kind of growing. And it was like, okay, they're showing me the roots. So I went back home and I looked up hemlocks, and apparently they have a very strong root system that grows quickly. It was like, okay, I'm on the right track. It's about the roots. I went back again, and this time I got a sense of the roots kind of creating a basket, you know, like a container that I was standing on. And then I started getting the, you know, like they're very patient hemlock trees, because, you know, it took me a while to, okay, I'm listening. but I'm only getting little pieces. It's like a mystery. And I got the sense of holding space for a group is like creating a basket, and every interrelation between two people is, weaving another root or another twig. And it's the basket is our relationships. And then within the basket is where we can do the work we're going to do. But if you don't have a nice, safe container, people aren't going to feel safe enough to do the work. And so I kind of brought that that wisdom that the tree shared with me to the Hela Grove as well, so that it doesn't matter what anybody says or does, and how anybody says or responds, or it doesn't matter, because it's all about these weaving these interconnections, and the interrelationships that we have with each other create that safe space that we can do the work within. So there's that. And the other thing that the forest has been teaching me is it's very much a community. So when I go in there, I feel like this is a community that's allowing me to be a part of it. It's welcome me in. And so I always, when I come in, I always say, hey, hi, it's Sharon, I'm here, and then I try to drop expand my energy field and drop the barriers that you sometimes need if you're around people, especially with a pandemic. So I try to let that go. And I just try to let my energy field merge with the trees as I walk, and be open. And then I get information. I get grounded. My energy field. I ask the trees, can you just filter my energy field as I walk through it? I imagine them just, clearing it. And so when I'm co-tending the grove, I imagine I'm in a forest, and I'm in this community of all diverse beings, and diverse people with diverse understandings, where they live, all that. And so I get the sense of, okay, this is just another community, and the strength is in the diversity, and the strength is in hearing from everybody. So it automatically creates a circle, not a hierarchical pyramid. So, and even speaking with you today, I'm imagining I'm in the midst of the forest, and the forest is informing me of what it wants to put forward there. So,
wow, that's so special. Yeah, finding that mirror in the strength of ecosystems being in the number of diverse and really strong networks that exist, and relationships, and that also being applicable to community circles and spaces, and integrating the two is very special. And I really love what you say about introducing yourself when you're in the forest, and actually locating yourself within that ecosystem, within the landscape, and not outside of it, and what we can actually hear when we actively participate in those spaces. So yeah, I found that really, really beautiful, and just lovely to hear from you. And I wonder, as we're sort of inviting the network into a digital detox over the weekend, as a sort of invitation to shed some of the distractions of the digital world and create more space for listening, if there's any kind of invitations or words of wisdom that you feel called to share for that time for people.
I think one of the important things is that when you choose to go outside and be with the world outside, and with trees and plants and animals and water and the sky, it's to imagine yourself as already belonging. You're already part of that community. It's not something that you have to do something special to belong. You already belong. It's more addressing all the other life forms around you as part of your community. And so you don't have to say it out loud. You could just say it inside. Hey, I'm here. Hi, sky, I'm here. Hello, Mother Earth, I'm here. I feel you. And say hello to the trees, even if you just have to put your hand on them. And yeah, it's situating yourself where you were and are all the time, as you're part of everything all the time. You're not really removed, but the digital world can help you feel like you're not part of everything, because there's this screen between you and everything else. And Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Really, really beautiful to connect with you today, and thank you so much for sharing some of those really sacred and beautiful processes with me and with the network. Thank you.
Thank you for, I've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.